in December, Joss and I went to a movie. We went to see First Man. Who's seen it, First Man? A few people. It's about Neil Armstrong landing on the moon. And I know there's a few of us here who are old enough to remember when Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon. And for those of you that are old enough, we're the fortunate ones. That was the greatest moment in the history of mankind. The whole world stopped that day and watched a human being step on the moon. It was an absolutely incredible day. And in that movie was this speech that John F. Kennedy gave in 1961 where he said, before this decade is out, we're going to put a man on the moon and we're going to bring him home safely. Fast forward, 8 years, 2 months later, Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon. NASA did not have a book, Man on the Moon for Dummies. This is how you get there. They had to figure everything out. They had to design it. They had to test it. 3 astronauts died on the launch pad when Apollo 1 burned up on the launch pad. But in 8 years and 2 months, they sent man onto the moon and brought them home safely. An absolutely incredible accomplishment. So fast forward to Canada, 2011, Christy Clark, former Premier of BC. We're going to have 1 LNG plant going by 2015 and 3 by 2020. Of course, we're going to have none by 2020. It took us 7 years and 1 month just to say, hey, that's a good idea. We didn't invent LNG. It's being made all over the world. Other people are benefiting from producing it. There's countries, mostly in Asia, begging for it because they want to reduce their emissions because they're using mostly coal. And so it took us 7 years and 2 months just to say, gee, swell idea. You know, what happened to us? We need a bit of a moonshot mentality back that we can get things done. It's going to be 14 years before it's up and going and fully operational. 14 years here in this country to build something that's being built all over the world. You know, we need to get a bit of a moonshot mentality here in Canada and start talking about what we can do, not what we can't do. And with all due respect to Neil Armstrong, I superimposed the Canadian flag here over this famous moonshot landing. But we need to get some courage and mojo and start building this country again. Can you imagine being on a Canadian trade mission right now, going anywhere in the world, and saying to your counterparts in Asia or Europe or United States, wherever, saying, hey, I've got a great deal for you. You can go invest somewhere else in the world right now, and in the next 8 years, you can put man on Mars. Or you can come to Canada and get stuck in a regulatory quagmire for 8 years. Come on down. No wonder capital is escaping this country. You know, we have to do things differently. So, of course, the big debate is infrastructure versus the environment. And it's a fight, one versus the other. Well, why don't we do both? They are not mutually exclusive. So what can we do? Well, you know, the lowest hanging fruit in this country is efficiency. We don't talk very much about efficiency. We're also busy fighting with each other. That this is really the lowest hanging fruit in this country because 80% of our electricity is already non-greenhouse gas emitting. So, you know, efficiency is driving smaller cars. 70% of us in this room, next time we buy a car, is a pickup truck or SUV, and I'm not pointing fingers. Jocelyn and I own an SUV as well. You know, why is that? Why don't we buy smaller, more efficient cars? Is our lifestyle really going to change that much? You know, we have to start thinking about this. Light bulbs, of course, and better windows. You know, we love windows here, get the light in and everything else, but we're still building houses with double glazed windows. You know, why is that? Why aren't the building standards higher? You know, efficiency is the lowest hanging fruit. We can do that. We don't need any new technology. It's all available, but we need some education and we need some mindset. Of course, we should continue to replace coal-fired with natural gas. We're doing that here in Alberta. We're going to be off coal within 4 years, which is remarkable. We should build renewables where it makes sense. And it doesn't make sense everywhere. 2 weeks ago it was announced Alberta's going to build, or Greengate Power is going to build a 400 megawatt solar facility here in Alberta, which is fantastic. So let's build it where it makes sense. Let's develop our energy infrastructure in this country. Let's develop it to the highest environmental standards in the world with full Indigenous consultation, because that's what we do here in Canada. But let's develop it. Let's develop it for the benefit of Canadians and for the benefit of people in the world who don't have energy or clean energy. We are part of the solution. We're not part of the problem. And of course, let's share our ingenuity. I give some examples here of carbon sequestration, and on the left, the photographs are some modern resources technology that we've developed. Zero methane emission natural gas and oil sites. You know, we're pretty good here in Canada. When I Spent most of my career in investment banking. I used to travel around the world, and I worked with a firm. We did energy transactions around the world. We had offices in Singapore and Buenos Aires, London, England, Houston, Denver, Calgary. I traveled all over the world to energy centers. Everywhere I went, people regarded Canada as the gold standard of energy development. They looked to us for knowledge, for technology to develop oil and gas responsibly. And I met Canadians working all over the world who were doing exactly that. Anywhere else you go in the world, and you tell people you're in the Canadian oil and gas industry, people in the industry, they will give you respect because they recognize us for the high standards we have. It's only here in Canada that you can't wear your I Love Energy shirt on Parliament Hill. What happened? How did our conversation ever get so offside? It's time to start a rational, informed conversation. And of course, we should export our Canadian technology. I give a few examples here, carbon engineering, a couple others. These are technologies which either take CO2 out of the air or out of flue gas for sequestration or to make products that can be sold, valuable products. You know, if we're going to have a big impact on emissions, we have to get outside Canada. As I said, we could shut this country down. We're only 1.6%. So it's time for Plan B. You know, let's start talking about what we can do, not what we can't do.